There we go. Good evening. It is 8:05 p.m. here on the east coast of the United States. I am once again doing my 8 p.m. Saturday working stream. The only stream that I regularly do because pizza's so infrequent. It's been a real barn burner of a week. I will tell you that much. Lots of things going wrong, left and right and center. Let me pull up Unity. But progress on software development is going well, so that's nice. we love to see that. Okay, cool. Looks like all my audio levels are peachy keen, so that's good. So, what do I have left to do for this application? The answer is really not much, which is pretty cool. I think I have my API stuff pretty much squared and sorted. There are 3 different APIs you can connect to. Only one of them requires authentication. It properly is able to save your tokens in a way so that you can reuse them, and you can pipe data to the front end of this, not front end, the actual heart rate part of this, which is good. I have. This is fun. Let's see. Open README. Where do I have this? Here we go. Let's open this in here. Browser. I actually documented all my shit, which is how it needs to be. We have docs for how the API is going to work. For the data part, you can get a flash of the VTS parameters and then color parameters every frame, which is exciting. Yeah, like this. So that's good. You'll get this as a fire hose of just nonstop data, capital D data. For events, you will get smaller messages that explain like a expression has been activated and at what heart rate and threshold these are triggered to set at. So that's cool. And then input is explained, how you do authentication, and then finally writing heart rate data is very, very straightforward. Love to see it, and all of this seems to work pretty good. So I'm not super sure all of what I have to do tonight. I think I have just some polish work pretty much to do. We'll see how it shakes out, I guess. Something I'm not looking forward to doing. Oh shit, I forgot to... Hold on one moment. I knew I was forgetting something. I was watching Taishi do stenography, and I got distracted and realized it was already 8 o'clock. 1 second. Hi, Utah. It's been a big day for news in the VTuber world. Let me log into my various bots. Log in. There we go. A very, very big, busy day. Lots of fires needed putting out in Discord today. Wow. You can just imagine the WoW sound effect. It's been a heck of a day. Lots of news in the VTuber world. Okay, hold on. You can redeem WoW again. It should work this time.
Wow.
There we go. Perfect. I forgot to turn on Mix It Up, which is what I use for all of my sound effects. I'm not sure why I'm set to blushing. I think that's a hotkey I have triggered here. Trigger above, trigger below. Yeah. Yeah, that's why. Where's my free yay? Okay, fine. You get the yay. There you go. Enjoy. Those 100 points don't come easy. That's like almost a whole 10 minutes of watching or something. Anyway, everything's nice and documented. I'm not looking forward to having to help somebody localize API docs into Japanese, though. I don't know how that's going to fly. Because everything else before this feature has been localized already, but this is brand new. So I have to go back to my localization assistant and ask him, plead with him to help me figure this out, if I even want to cross that road. Or if this is just going to stay English only for the time being. I don't know. But it all seems to work. I'm trying to decide if I want to specifically label these parameters as, like, this object is the VTS parameters object, because these are all named after their, like, custom tracking parameter. I think it's probably fine to just leave it like this. I don't currently have any plans for any other parameters. In theory, I guess I could have like a different thing that expands this just beyond VTube Studio, but there's no plan for that at the time being. Programmers can usually read English well enough. That's true, I suppose, but it feels inconsiderate, I guess, to assume that they can. And it feels like I'm being the lazy one. It's like, oh, you should just be able to read my language. If you want to use this tool, you have to speak English because I can't be bothered to learn Japanese, you know? So I don't want to be inconsiderate or rude in that sense. But at the very least, we'll get the usage steps in the, not API, in the README all set and squared away in Japanese. That's a feature for another day, though. That's going to be a whole long thing. I'm going to have to make a whole Japanese video, get that quality assured and everything, learn American. Basically, it feels really inconsiderate to have English be the lingua franca, because I can't be bothered to learn Japanese, I guess. Oh, Denji, actually, now that you're here, I got a question for you on how you handle something for VTube Studio. So right now, I save tokens in a individual file, and parts of the token are the name of the plugin, the author of the plugin, and the token, obviously. And so a problem I encountered was if I use the same author name and plugin name and do the token request again, it will grant me a new token, which, you know, is expected, but that will basically make a new entry in the save file list. So eventually, if you keep asking for a new token instead of reusing the one you're sent, you just get a list here of, like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the same plugin over and over again. And I noticed that VTube Studio doesn't have that problem. Like, you can re-request a token as many times as you want for the same plugin. So I'm curious how you handle the save data in that sense, because it seems to me like it could be a malicious actor that says, oh yeah, I'm definitely, you know, VBridger. I'm VBridger by, I don't remember the name of their studio, and then you request a new token, and it replaces the token that actual VBridger gave you. You delete old plugin files. Yeah, but how do you know it's actually them? Just because they have the same name? You just have to trust? Somebody else could write a plugin that says, yeah, I'm VTS Heart Rate by Skeletom, and the user will approve it, and it'll be like its whole thing. I guess that's really the only way to do it, but it seems like it could be a abuse of trust. I don't know. That's my opinion. But yeah. You know, like, somebody makes a plugin that says, yes, I'm actually VBridger, and they use the same icon and everything. And now suddenly VBridger no longer has access, but this plugin does, and the user doesn't know, because they're like, oh yeah, I only have VBridger as my only approved plugin. I don't know how you could handle it, is the thing. It seems like a very difficult thing to explain to the user in an easy-to-understand way. You'd basically have to have, instead of approving a plugin, you approve a token, and the user would have to know what token each plugin has. But then that's another security vulnerability for a whole different reason. So I don't know what you could do, but I wanted to pick your brain about it if you had a cool idea. Okay. So one thing I want to do or need to do is when you boot up the plugin here, I want the API to start immediately, and right now it is not able to do that because of a very contrived way in how I set up the API manager that I will now attempt to explain. So if we jump into VS Code here, and we look at my settings where I increase the font size, we close all that. We don't need that, we don't need that. So in the API manager, I have a start method where you say start on this port, and you pass in a port, and you pass in a onStatus function, which takes in like a connection status thing, which basically is the display. And so the only place that currently start on port is called is in the front end component here, which is the part of the UI that represents where the user types in the port and has a button to start and stop the API. And so the way it works right now is you tell the manager you want to start on the port you get from your input field or from the loaded save data, which populates the input field, and you pass in the little display widget as the set status here. The problem is, or rather, I'll explain the benefit here. The benefit here is now that the API layer has pretty much no direct knowledge of how it's being represented in the front end. It is simply the manager for starting a server and stopping a server, and you can functionally pass in a reference to the thing that's displaying how this is working. The problem is, if you want this to boot up automatically, you would need that to come from the front end, because the front end says, I need to represent it in this way. Basically, we need a reference to this status indicator whenever we boot up the API. And so I don't have a good way of doing that right now, because I wanted to have, like, basically on start here, initialize, just fire up the API, right? But it needs a reference to its front end, and there are basically two ways I can do this. I can either glue a reference to that status display here, and have it just know that that is how it is being represented, and kind of couple these things kind of tightly, or I can do something more contrived and like somehow get the front end to load and kick off starting up the API. It's a struggle. What's Ren saying? Comes down to the user needing to know what they're doing, unfortunately. Yeah. You're not wrong. Oh, I think I can enable this again. This wasn't actually the problem from last time. Yeah, so we have our front-end object here. It's got its little display for status indicator. And so what I could do is restart server here, and then it will, you know, work properly, and that's how the server gets started. But because this is called on the start method, this only ever happens when the front end, I'll wait for this to finish saving. There we go. So that start method only ever gets called here when we actually load this up. And because of the order of operations, it looks like it doesn't actually properly set this. So it says the API server started, but it doesn't show that it got started here. So the other approach that I'm thinking of is I can just add a quick loading screen where it flips through each of the pages here and, like, basically loads these in advance, which I think I wanted to do anyway because, as you might notice, I'll do it again. When I jump over to, say, outputs here after we connect, there's a brief moment when everything, like, has to sort itself out in the layout order, and the page kind of jumps around. I'll do it quickly and maybe you can tell. Yeah, see, like, you can see the scroll bar having to expand, which is undesirable, I guess. Same with going to settings for the first time. So I'm thinking I might just have a quick load screen that, for like 3 frames, flips through each one of these and gets them initialized. And then that should work, maybe? I don't know. The alternative is just not booting up the API by default every time you load up the application, but I think that's probably not desirable. In fact, probably the status of the API being loaded or not loaded should be a boolean saved to the save file, if I'm being perfectly honest, because then if I stop this, I wouldn't necessarily want it to automatically restart the next time I boot up the application, because maybe you just don't ever want the API on. That would be annoying if you had to turn it off every time. If you viewed this as a security vulnerability or something, I don't really know why you'd turn it off, but any host of reasons, you don't really need to have a good one. So much to think about, the other reason that the whole, like, gluing the UI to the manager aspect is kind of dicey is because here in the core calculator class, the one that actually connects to VTube Studio, I do glue that data, or that front end, straight to this thing. There's a... I mean, it has lists of all of its color input modules that it gets data out of, which are UI elements, and expression modules and hotkey modules and stuff like that, which are UI elements, but it also does just have a reference to its status indicator directly here. But conversely, on the other side of that, where is my network tab? Network, Pulsoid. In my Pulsoid manager here, I behave much more like how I was describing the API, where I pass in a status indicator, and the Pulsoid manager does not have any reference to its front end whatsoever. It doesn't really have references to anything at all, which is quite nice and very functional, which I like. So I am at a crossroads for how to design this, and I'm gonna let perfect be the enemy of good is my concern. Much to think about, much to think about. But, as I was saying, one thing to do here would be in the save and load. Where did I put that? Collapse this guy. Collapse this. Where's my save and load? Wait, data serialization's all the way up here for some reason. Okay. So that's plugin data. And the revoking tokens. Save token. Load token. So I think what I want to do, if I want to make it remember if the API is started or not every time it starts up, I would do that from, I think here is currently where all of the save data, this is built like such a piecemeal, who that is. Oh, wow, hello. Welcome aboard. Let's give you a shout out. Demi KLO. Thank you for the big, powerful raid. You were last seen playing Apex Legends. Wow. An FPS gamer, huh? Could not be me. I do not have the wherewithal to aim in first person at all. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard. I am your skeletal host, Skeletom. I am currently working on a plugin for VTube Studio, wherein you can connect your heart rate monitor devices, like a Cuspo, Apple Watch, whatever you've got. It will then convert that into a series of tracking parameters you can use inside VTube Studio to make your model blush, breathe more heavily, trigger hotkeys and expressions, etc., etc. So that is what I'm up to right now. I'm currently doing a feature for this where I'm building an API layer, that is an application programming interface, on top of the VTube Studio API layer, so that people can then build plugins that extend this plugin itself. You can use this as a way to collect your heart rate data from any of those services, and then, say, make it connect to Vroid, or any other proprietary VTuber application, or not even VTuber application, make a cool widget or something like that for your stream. So that is what I'm up to right now. What packages are you using? Is it custom or just part of the VTS API that you developed? Yeah, it is. I'm building this in Unity. This is the Unity game engine because it is my C# visual engine of choice. And then, as you pointed out, it is using the library that I made to interface with VTube Studio in C#. To use an industry term, I am eating my own dog food right now, which is to say, I am testing the product that I made, which is the library, and making sure that it's actually suitable for its purpose, which is make an application. And so far, after having developed this for 6 months, I can absolutely say yes. The library accelerated development on this. It let me get this out the door very, very quickly, and I'm able to iterate on it very quickly as well. I've put out 3 new versions of this, and this will be the 4th since January. Will it be open source on this and allow to forks, etc.? I'm glad you asked. Every project that I work on stream can be found. Does that command not work? Come on. What did it just get, maybe? There we go. Every project that I work on stream can be found on my GitHub. They're pretty much all under the MIT license, which is do whatever you want with it. So yes. This one in particular, if you just pull it down from Git, will not compile, because it has several paid Unity assets in here for interfacing with various heart rate devices. Like, for example, there's a USB protocol called Ant Plus that is used by many Garmin sporting equipment type things. It's kind of like Bluetooth, but it is proprietary, so the asset that I used that allows Unity to deal with those drivers and everything was a $60 paid asset. I cannot commit that to version control in good faith. I think that would break terms of service. People could then just download it for free. So if you download this, you will get lots of compiler errors saying that it cannot find the various Ant Plus pieces of code, among other things. There's like credentials and stuff that are not committed to version control that are in classes that are excluded. So it won't build out of the gate, but you can certainly poke around. And yeah. Think about GitHub Copilot. A lot of open source people are moving over to GitLab because of it. I myself have been thinking about moving, but unsure. I do not understand why you would move because of Copilot. My understanding of Copilot was that it's like IntelliSense on steroids, for better or for worse. So like IntelliSense is something like where I do this dot, and I get this filled-in list of all the things that it could possibly be, all of the parameters that are a member of this, and that's IntelliSense, and then you can do like, you know, this dot add, whatever. And then Copilot, as far as I understand it, is a function of GitHub that indexes many or all open source GitHub repositories and sees like, oh, you're making a for loop, huh? So you do for, and it just intuits that you want to do a whole loop and fills it in exactly correct, or as correct as it thinks it can, from there. So it pulls licensed code. Oh no, that's no good. Hey Fuba, there's an issue on who owns the code. I hear it's a problem if you actually will own the script. AI software. My company banned it. I mean, like, I don't care. Like, I make this stuff public because I want people to use it. I don't really care. I don't think I have ownership over any of this. Anything that's public on my GitHub and open source is not something I'm trying to monetize in any way. So, I don't really care who has ownership of the code. I think. I might just not understand the gravity of the issue well enough. Yeah, that's the other thing, is I can't imagine it gets it right very often. It seems like it would cause you more problems than it's worth when you have to inevitably make slight touch-ups to code that you don't remember writing because you didn't write it. So, like, now it's just generated a bespoke code block. You might not know how it works, and might not know how to fix it. And that sounds like it's going to waste more time than just learning how to do it the right way. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't work on stuff that's proprietary or secret or close to the chest enough that I care. If GitLab is indexing my code and trying to make other people use it, I would not be opposed. My code is currently used in many paid plugins. vBridger uses my library. Twitch Integrated Throwing System, TITS, uses my library, and both of those are paid assets. Or paid plugins, rather, that you can buy for like $15 a pop. I didn't ask for any royalties. I only found out after the fact that they were using them, because I was able to reverse engineer how they were saving tokens, and I figured that they are both using Unity, so there was a fairly good shot. But like, I don't care. If I were doing something that I was trying to make money off of, I probably wouldn't make it open source, and if I did make it open source, I would be more concerned. I definitely get where you're coming from. But it doesn't bother me too much. I don't see what's the problem. It doesn't sound useful to me. Like, Copilot just seems like an annoyance. I think it's going to cause problems when it generates code that the person who then like uses that code is going to think is fine. And if it doesn't work, they won't understand why, because they don't understand the code in the first place, because they didn't write it themselves. I forgot what I was doing. I think. What am I doing here? Restart server on port, import, start on port. I think what I need to do. Yeah, alright, I was going to make a little load screen. That's right. So let's do that. How does one make a load screen? We are going to copy our pop-up here. Oh, I should go back to Unity, actually, and show what I'm doing. We have a pop-up here. We're going to copy that. Go to our game. This is going to be load screen, because the pop-up and the load screen function very similarly in that they're a full screen UI element that fades in and fades out. Yeah. Denshi, if I had the brain capacity, I would. Something I actually want to have for this next release that I will not get to because it is just functionally not possible for me to do this, is make a cute logo. I think Lua has roasted me 3 releases in a row that I haven't added an icon to this plugin, and I keep forgetting to. So I feel like I need some kind of cool identity thing. I'm thinking some kind of, like, cardiograph, like one of those lines that's like a zigzaggy sine wave, and it's going to be like a big V, and then it'll have like the name of the plugin next to that, so it'll look like an EKG, but it'll just be a big V. I don't know. Ooh, people are weighing in. I feel like the years before Copilot, I saw a joke about my copy-paste from Stack Overflow as a service. Yes. Premium resource when it comes to programming is developer time, not the code already created. I'm not sure how I interpret that, Ty, in relation to what we're talking about here. I think I misunderstand. My take on this is that I think Copilot will waste more developer time as they have to double back and fix stuff that they don't understand. But I'm not super sure. Okay, so let's make this. This is where pop-up is, right? Pop-up button. Where is pop-up stored? UI prefabs. Not under modules, surely. Huh. This is a prefab, but where? I didn't see it here. Oh, it's a container. That's right. Load screen. So this is going to be an original prefab. My own original prefab. Oh, I don't think it hurts or helps anyone. Yeah, it just seems kind of like neat, I guess. Like imagine. Well, I mean, it pushes the B-movie script. That's only a problem if you blindly commit code that you're having this thing write for you, like fully autonomously. It would be. Now, the problem I see with Copilot is all it takes is somebody to open source malware, like innocuous looking malware, right? And then somebody's using Copilot and it indexes that malware repository and says, oh, you want this for loop? Here, take this one with all this boilerplate garbage injected into it. And the user, not knowing what they're doing at all, says, yeah, this is fine. And they get like 5 NPM packages that are writing tokens and shit back to, and user data back to a remote repository elsewhere. And they don't know it's doing that because they don't understand the code they're writing. And that could be a problem, since I don't think you have any way of verifying, or GitHub has any way of verifying the safety of the code that Copilot is pulling from, I think. So if somebody were to open source a virus or malware or something like that, I could very well see Copilot being a vector for spreading it, which is very alarming. But I don't know. Okay, so we've got our load screen. Let's make it visible. Crank the alpha up to 1. We should also probably enable it so I can actually see it. We don't need our content panel here. It's literally just going to say it's loading. I will add like a little thing in the bottom corner, probably. And it has its fade in, fade out, animated flash here. So now we can make a load screen script, I think. Actually, I don't even need to. I have a whole bunch of animated classes that I made from a game project I did a while ago. They're very, very useful, and I will now show you why. So we go to our UI. No. UI manager. Where is my UI manager? I need to speak to the manager, UI manager. So I will now add a reference to serialized field, private, animated flash. Oh, do I not have that? I could just make it its own thing. Yeah, that's fine. Let's make a load screen script. Elements. Load screen. Pop that on here. Pop that on here. There we go. Like my name Cyborg said, the same concern exists regarding people copy-pasting stuff off GitHub or Google code samples. Yeah, I feel like even then, though, you have to take like one additional step to almost comprehend what you're like copy-pasting. But if a machine just already copies something and just asks you to hit paste, that's removing one more step of user confirmation or agency from the whole equation. And I feel like really might degrade the understanding the user has for what they're about to do. I still think a cute animated skeleton load screen would be nice. That's very kind of you to offer to draw it, Denshi. That's really nice. I look forward to it being in my inbox by, say, I don't know, Wednesday. Very, very kind and considerate of you to completely offer to draw this cute animated skeleton loading screen. Good night, Demi. Thank you for the raid. I really do appreciate it. I hope I'm not boring your high action FPS audience too much, but this is pretty much what I do. It's this. Sometimes I play weird Kusoge type games for the PS2 era, and then sometimes I do IRL cooking. But I won't be doing cooking anytime soon because I'm very, very tired. I have slept for about 10 hours cumulatively in the past 3 days. So, Bond said she'd draw it, did she? Bond didn't say this. I know everything Bond said. You can't fool me, Denshi. You can't sow the seeds of doubt here. Yeah, nice try, Denshi. Known liar, Denshi. Can't trust him as far as you can throw him. Really sucks. How far the mighty have fallen. Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about it. What are you drawing, by the way? I see you've got your pad out if you want to share what you're drawing. I'm looking over at your desk and you have your giant tablet ready to go. Load screen. Okay, so let's look at this, and then we can close that. Close. We're actually not doing API work right now. This is fun. So open load screen as well. Okay. Oh, and then open pop-up. So this is using my UI library, which is not open source. It's just a thing that's in here. I should probably make it its own standalone thing, but I don't think it's that good, I guess. And we're going to have our... Where is it? Animated Flash. So the animated flash is a component that lets UI fade in and out, and it has callbacks at each point of the, like, each keyframe, basically. Trying to absorb good Unity practice from Skeletom through the screen rather than through my high-speed code crimes. I don't have good Unity practices. This is just my understanding of how to use this engine. I don't know that there is such a thing as good Unity practices, but I appreciate it. You'll see me do shit like, use like this in front of everything, because my brain doesn't work right. I'll do like this dot flash. This is not how it's meant to be done. It's just simply how I am. Okay, so we're gonna do public void load. And what we're gonna do is this dot flash dot start animation. And I wrote this, so my animated flash library is or animated flash component here, like I said, has callbacks on each part of the process. You pass in basically a wait condition, where it basically waits to see that these conditions have been met, and then it will do things on the midway point, or when it fades in, and then finally when it has finished fading. So what I wanted to do here is the condition I'm waiting for is to have the UI manager flip between all the different pages and then back to the first one. So, to that end, I'm going to make a coroutine. This is squirrely, but this is fine. Private enumerator. Pages like this, I think. And then should be UI manager dot instance dot go to tabs dot, and then we're gonna do inputs yield return wait for seconds 0.25f, basically wait for a frame, turn new. I don't think she said, but it might be a secret. That's fine. I have insider knowledge because I can just look at her drawing and, you know, that's cheating. Do outputs. Then we do settings. And we go back to this. Back to the top. And then all of this is going to have a private bool loaded false. I don't like gluing this. I might make this something you pass in. Maybe. I don't like gluing this into the loading screen page. This is bad practice, is what you're looking at right now. But basically what I've made is what's called a coroutine in Unity, which is a thing that you can time specifically with like a number of seconds. It runs kind of adjacent to the main thread. It's kind of like a thread, but not really. It's still in the main thread. So what I'm going to have this do is at the end of this, it's going to say this.loaded is equal to true. And so it's thread safe. It's kind of like a thread, but it's thread safe. So what we're going to do is the boolean that we're waiting for, return what is it? Return this dot loaded like that. So once loaded becomes true, this should be good to go. Huh? What does this mean? Anonymous function can't return? How do I normally do this? What's it complaining about? I don't understand. Oh, that's considered acceptable? Okay, sure. Fine. That's cool. That's fine. And then I don't think I need any other functions. I can just give it empty anonymous functions. It might even default to null by default. Oh wait, no, okay, it doesn't like this. Can I convert from bool to function bool? Brother, I was telling you what this should be and it wasn't working. What's the issue? What's the issue? Function bool. Return. Oh, okay. I guess it was just cranky before. Bunch of useless functions that don't do anything. That might work. I don't know. So now, if I have this in the main scene here. Oh, I also need to make this like fully opaque. And probably gray instead of black. I clone the project so that I can see our Unity development. It's been 8 years, wow. Okay, this doesn't seem to have worked. Because it is just staying put. Oh, wait, no, I know why. Because I didn't tell it to actually start the coroutine. There we go. Yeah, like I said, Ty, it won't compile out of the box because I have a bunch of paid assets that I didn't commit to version control. But I've had one person try and cut those out so far, and they were able to do it in a day. So I don't think it's that going to be that big of a deal. Alright, what's happening here? Why is this not fading in and out? Because I never tell it to. I never call the load function. Clearly my brain is already fried and it's only been like 40 minutes. I need to go to my UI manager now. And here, I need to say, in my start function, we get rid of this goto, and we're going to do this.loadScreen.load. And I need to also add a pointer to the load screen. I don't know why I thought this would work out of the box without having done anything special to it. That's just not how these things work. So we take our load screen, point a reference to it, and now we will try again. Nah, nothing. Okay. Why? Why? Why not? Why doesn't this work? I'm not sure. Let's see. So we're gonna do debug.log load it. We can verify that this is happening, and then we can do over like that. That's a function that should only happen at the end of the load screen. So if we see these, it's thinking it's doing something. I'm guessing I probably just need to set its opacity to 0 initially. Null reference. Okay. Interesting. Oh, I know why. Once again, I'm just thinking stuff will work. Forgetting about how references work in Unity, I need to point the loader. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, and I need to make it, stop blocking scripts. Or stop blocking clicks. There we go, that works, that works, that works. But currently it's just 0 opacity, so it's blocking clicks, which I can easily fix. But for now, I will just turn it back off. Go back here. Why is it like this? Why does it say it's disconnected? The API is started, which is good. Interesting. Interesting. Did that load screen actually accomplish what I wanted it to? Coroutines are neat to think about. Yeah, they're like threads, but not really. They don't save a ton of time. Okay, so we know that it's loading. Can I do this? Is this how this works? Basically make it disable itself as soon as it's done. Why? Guess we don't really need it to do that. Okay, so what is it doing? What's it doing here? I'm gonna make the load screen transparent, and I'm gonna see what it's doing now behind the scenes, see if it's actually doing what I think it's doing. Okay, that does seem like what I thought it was doing. Which is good. Basically, the purpose of this load screen is supposed to be to initialize all 3 pages here, fire up all these little modules, get them to run their start lifecycle functions, etc., etc. But we're still having a problem here where it's not properly displaying that the API is on. So why? Why is that the case? Let's find out. So that is located in where? That is the API. So it's not. Or no, it isn't in. No, I think I put it in my network. Yeah, okay. It's API server settings. This should probably be in the UI folder, but it's not. Okay, so we have a status indicator. Cool. And we're saying on start, restart the server. Cool. We do that. And then where else do we reference our status indicator? Is something possibly setting it to disconnected before or during the same frame as being told that it's good? No? Doesn't look like it. Unless in here there's a start function that's telling it to be disconnected. Aha! There we go, that's why. Let's do... So here's a cool thing to learn about Unity. There are 3 phases of life cycle that you need to think about when you boot up a Unity component, a mono behavior. There's onEnabled, which fires whenever the game object becomes enabled in the world. There's Awake, and then after Awake is Start. And these are 3 tiers, basically, of a initialization function, right? So Awake happens before Start, but they basically do the same thing. So all I need to do here is say that on Awake. So on Awake, this will set itself to disconnected. Basically, defaults initializes this as gray. And what was happening here was, due to order of operations and script execution, my API server settings widget here was also on start trying to connect to and start up a server. And so the server was started and said it's green. And then the status indicator here ran the start function and said I'm disconnected, even though it knew that it was, connected behind the scenes. So fun messing around with lifecycle stuff here in Unity. I don't like that. I don't like relying on Unity lifecycle functions very much. I think it's bad. There's probably a better way for me to handle it. So now we flip through all of these, and now if I go to my settings tab here, yay, it's green. Because our API has correctly started up as nature intended. So we like that. That's good. I'm wondering if it would make more sense for me to make every widget here have a... Okay, so hear me out. Here's a big refactor that I could do if I wanted to just be an engineer about this. I can make it so that every one of these elements here that we've got in our scripts folder inherits from some kind of like abstract class that has an initialize function that I can control the execution of. So Unity itself is not controlling the lifecycle of, but I am. And then I could have my UI manager class have a reference for basically every one of these things in the entire scene. And then when the UI manager boots up, it can execute those things in the correct order. Is a thing I could do. And then I can free myself from being beholden to execution order of the Unity lifecycle, and we just control it ourselves. Every day that I can get further away from relying on Unity to do something for me is a good day, in my opinion. But for now, I will go back to having this like such. I think I can do that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good and what I want. For now, the load screen is doing what I expect it to do. Can you use a list of initialization delegates instead of using inheritance? I'm not sure what you mean in this case. My thought process would be like, okay, so we have, like the widget we're looking at here. We have our API server settings. This would inherit from some base like UI element class, right? And the UI element class would say it has a abstract initialize method that I need to implement here. And we would basically carve out what we currently have in start, and that would be an initialize. And then in my UI manager, if I still have that pulled up, in this thing's initialize function here, we would just iterate over the loop of every UI element in the scene that we'd have a precompiled reference to, and we just do the initialization in some kind of order. That's what I'm thinking of. And then I can get all of my UI to be populated and do what it needs to do without having it to actually have been activated in the scene first, which is what I'm using a load screen currently to kind of hide. I don't know. Could go either way. It's not really a big deal, I don't think. And also, I can probably make the load screen even shorter. Load f equals second, or f equals 0.1 f. You can just do f. Like such. I see, yeah. That's my thought. Inheritance is kind of tricky because, like, you can only inherit from one thing. I guess I can make them interfaces, also is fine, and then you don't have to worry about single inheritance of any kind. But that's a thing I could definitely do. It'd be a big refactor. I'd have to mess around with everything, I think. And then you get into cases where, like these, oh, I should be back in Unity. Like these expression, this is actually a very good example of why it should be an interface, I think. For things like expression trigger here, if I can click on this. This is one of these. Actually, this doesn't inherit. What am I thinking of? I've got, I have heart rate input modules. If I go back to my thing here. So like test slider. This guy right here. Test slider. Test slider. Test slider, my beloved. Slider input module. This is a UI element, but it inherits from a heart rate input module class because I wanted to have these all be very standardized in a specific way. I guess this could have been an interface. When I was last touching C++, I was looking for ways to avoid inheritance. My way of thinking probably doesn't make much sense for C#. Yeah, inheritance is what it's all about. It's object-oriented. So inheritance is part and parcel for how the language works. I don't think it's a thing to be avoided necessarily. Okay. So now I have to live with, I guess, the fact that the starting of the API is currently bound to the UI layer rather than the manager itself, which I don't know if is good or bad or whatever. But I've made a load screen successfully now. I could just choose to not use the load screen, I guess. And if I really wanted to, I could just give the manager a reference to the little display widget and we'd probably be fine there. I don't know. Much to think about. Actually, no. Even if I gave the manager a reference to this directly, as soon as it loaded back up again, it would not be displayed correctly. So, what I'm doing is correct. This is fine. I don't need to keep thinking about this. Okay, so that's cool. That's one problem solved. I should probably add like some kind of load text to the load screen. I don't have any cool graphics to put on here right now. But, I should definitely do something to indicate that it's loading. I just don't know what. Let's save the scene. Let's see. So I think that pretty much does it for the API feature. I think that's everything that I need to have done. I can do my inputs. I can have a list of approved plugins that you can revoke at the user's leisure. I've documented my APIs. You can start and stop. Oh, I said I should make the whether or not the server actually starts or stops based on a loaded variable from the save file, I think. Maybe. Or I just make it always start. I don't know. I think for now I'll just make it always start. And if people complain about it, I can change it later. I don't think anybody's actually going to care. Though if I do this, I should probably choose a good default port other than 8080. Because I think everybody's going to have 8080 being used by something else, probably. So that's easy enough to change. That is in my API manager. Right here. Oh wait, actually no, I fucked up again, and I've glued functionality into my front end without realizing it. I do the default port here, where if the port's out of bounds, we do set it to 8080. What's a cool port number, guys? What port should I use? I don't have any number that's like significant to me specifically, so I don't know. Everybody does like 8,000 something. I could be really weird and do like 8214 for my birthday. Like 8,000 and then 214. 6969, there you go. 11235. What's the significance there? I don't understand. 11235. Is that a birthday? No, it can't be. Oh. Nerd. You big nerd. Could be, could be. Yeah, I mean, guilty as charged, right? So am I. I don't know. I just don't. I think 8080 is likely to already have a conflict if the user is doing anything else, which could be a problem. I don't know. I could just go into the 9000s, over 9000, 9001, etc., etc. I'm struggling to see if there's any kind of cool pun I can use. I'm just going to do 8214. There's no way anybody has a conflict on that. 214 is my birthday, so that's fun. Basically, what I don't want to have happen is the user boots up the plugin and it immediately complains in the error logging section. Oh, that's cool. Only one usage of each socket address. Protocol network address port is normally permitted. This does not format pretty, but this is a good status error message that is useful to me if they were to report this. This is because I started and stopped the program too quickly before, and the WebSocket server did not have adequate time to shut down. Or maybe because I'm using 8080. Let's use the default now. There we go. Close that. Start it up. It's nice and happy. And if I fire it up again, it should be fine. Yep, nice and happy. Okay, so that's cool. That's fine. You can stop the server at any time. Start it back up. No problems there. So I think this feature is just about done. I think there's like endless amount of polishing I can do in the back end to make this feel like really elegant. I don't care that much for the sake of getting this out the door. I've got people who want to use this, so I'm really interested in putting it in their hands. I guess really what all I can talk about now in terms of this. There's one other feature I kind of want to try and do. I think I'm going to just have this be a short stream because I'm kind of tired. As I mentioned, I've gotten very, very little sleep, and it will definitely affect me if I keep trying to go and make a new feature. The other feature that I wanted to add was, I don't know why I opened a browser. I should show show how this works in Unity. Right now, as of the second iteration of this, I changed it so that your settings were no longer global, and they were instead saved per model, right? So like right now, I have my Skeletom profile loaded, and if I were to be Akari, which is the lovely mascot of VTube Studio from Denshi, I have a separate set of settings that are on that model. And what currently the plugin does is it sees what model you have loaded in VTube Studio, checks to see if you've got a save file with the same UUID as that model, and if you do, it will just automatically load it for you. So if you've got a hotkey or a Stream Deck thing that swaps models, you don't have to worry about then loading a new profile in here. In this way, you can have a bunch of different models like your workout gear or whatever you do, and they're all configured nice and properly, and it just seamlessly will change for you behind the scenes. Similarly, you can copy the settings from one profile to another. So like if you had Akari and then like Akari sports gear, you could clone the settings from Akari sports gear back onto Akari. And if you have like a lot of variants of your model with different outfits, you can just have them all nice and finely tuned together. But something somebody asked me for, and it occurs to me would be a good idea, is the ability to have sub-profiles within a model. And I have to think about how I want to get that set up, because I don't see an easy way to automatically intuit what you want to do with your model like that. So the use case is, I am a streamer, I have one model, I like to stream horror games, where I'm blue in the face because I'm so scared, and I like to stream Ring Fit Adventure, where I'm, red in the face because I'm very, very flush with activity, and I would like to be able to have both of these things driven by heart rate, and I don't want to have to keep resetting it each time. And currently your app only lets me have one profile per model. So I need to come up with a way where we'll properly load your model and then give you some kind of additional selector that lets you define to have like a child profile within the model itself, which is kind of a squirrely task. I'm not sure how I want to go about doing that. But that might be a problem for off-stream or when I get a bit more sleep. So for now, all I can really think of is my API documented well enough? Is this good? I've got things that are named adequately, I think. When you get for data, you get your heart rate, you get the various tracking parameters that are named the same thing they are in the, like over here. They're literally named the same thing, which seems good and how it should be. You get color information, the base color, and then the current interpretation of that color, which is basically just white interpolated to this color by a function of this. But I do the math for you. This is exactly how the color modules function, and then a list of matchers. Figured this might be useful if you're trying to say configure this to Vroid. Oh, actually, so something else that I would need to configure here for the API to be truly as useful as I envision, though it's technically a separate feature, is if I don't have any VTube Studio model loaded at all, I don't know that it actually will save your settings. And this kind of ties into wanting to let the user save their own profiles, but also have like multiple still have the model get loaded automatically, rather. So if I don't have VTube Studio connected at all, and say I'm trying to use this as now a plugin for Vroid, because I'm using the API here to pipe all this data into Vroid, if I don't have a model loaded, I don't know that when I add settings here, they will get saved in any meaningful way at all. So I'm not sure how to handle that. But that's technically a different feature. The API works as intended for VTube Studio, which is good. It's good. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're good there. So let me commit. Git add all commit m added a rudimentary load screen. I agree with Tenchi that I should add some cute graphics to it. I just don't know. The object closure duality. No, I don't know what this means. Please enlighten me, Millennium Cyborg. I've never heard of the object closure duality, but I would like to. I don't even know where I'd begin with that. I don't understand what it means. My brain is too small. Let's close this. If your language has objects, you can implement closures in terms of them. And if it has a closure, you can implement objects in terms of those. I don't know what a closure means in this case. I am small-brained. Isn't a closure just like a finally statement? In like a try-catch? A closure in C# is a delegate, I think. I still don't understand. I know what a delegate is. A delegate is a function that you do later. An instance of a function plus some bound variables. Okay, yes. Okay. Okay. So, in that sense, it's an object because it's a reference with some bound variables. Yeah, okay. So you're saying make every object a function? Is that what I'm being instructed here? I don't follow. This is the lack of sleep talking, I'm sorry. Oh, something else I should do is I should make the load screen lower in the sort order than the that here. How do I define that? What makes the pop-up on top of everything? If anything. Did I not define that somehow? Is it just because it's lower in the list? In that case, pop-up should be here, I think, because pop-up, I want the pop-up to be on top of the load screen. So if it says, like, there's a new version, you get that right away. Oh, I know you're not suggesting I do anything. I'm just trying to understand, like, what anyone would do in the paradigm I think you're describing. I know you're not telling me to refactor my code. I understand that. I just don't get what is meant here. So I get that you can have delegates, which are kind of like objects, because they're a pointer to a point in memory, and they've got bound variables. So that's all an object really is. But I don't get what somebody does with that. Like, I use delegates all the time. So much of my code is written in such a way that it has, like, inline function definitions. Like, almost all of my, where even is it? Like, all of the base heart rate plugin here. Heart rate plugin. No, wrong one. This one. Everything I do with VTube Studio is basically an inline function definition. So, like, create a new parameter. It's a delegate. What do we do when we connect? Do all of this. What do we do when there's an error? Do all of this. Very similar to JavaScript promises in this regard. So I love delegates. I love inline functions. It's very, very handy. But I don't get what someone would do with what you're trying to describe. Suppose you're using a Lisp family language that has no objects. Make your own object system using closures. Okay, that makes sense. I understand now. That's fucky. That's very fucky. Like, force something to be object-oriented by sheer power of will. Lisp. ... Frankly, I can't really imagine writing in a non-object-oriented language these days. I'm so used to it. It's let's get this out of here. I'm so programmed to think about object-oriented stuff. Now I'm just looking at code and being like, damn, this is good code. I think this is as good as I can get the API. I've got API messages kind of tightly coupled to the function of the program, but I don't see any other way around that. We send our data at the end of every update loop, as God intended. A delegate or a single method interface. I love single method interfaces. That's fine. Just slap that shit on there. You can have as many interfaces as you want in an object. So, or a class definition or whatever. So just keep going. Why not? Okay, I think this is good. We made a slight change here. I don't like that I am relying on order of operations for Unity lifecycle stuff, but I don't think it can be helped. That just is how it is. I don't like that the front end here is now what's determining if the server can start, or determining the valid value for a port here. But it is what it is. Like, this is the equivalent of, like, client-side validation, but that's like a nonsense thing to think about, because this whole thing is just the server and the client are one because it's an application. It's not a web page. It's not writing back or doing a remote call. Like, there's no way you could cheese this. They're ultimately tightly coupled. I'm trying to apply, like, web dev brain to a application, which is just nonsense. I shouldn't do that. UI manager, I think, is alright here. We added our load screen. Defensive programming. Yeah, I mean, like, that's pretty much what it is, but there's no real way a user could have, like, sneak past the front end when the front end and the server are the same executable, you know? I understand what you are saying. I'm very much trying to apply, like, oh, I have to separate the concerns of the front end display and, like, the back end, which is, like, the manager classes I have. And so we have an API manager, which is just purely concerned with, you know, launching the server and doing the message interpretation, and then how we display, like, statistics about it, and if it's online, that's something it has no concern over, etc., etc. But, like, that's dumb, kind of, for a thing like this, because they are one and the same. It's all one executable at the end of the day. There's no way a user can circumvent the validations of the front end. In this particular case. I'm just being a weird engineer snob. Yeah, I think that's probably going to do it here for me. I don't really care to start a new feature right away. I realize this is kind of a short stream. I guess I could try and start the other feature I was talking about. I don't really see the point in it. At this point. I don't know. If I were to stop now, are there even people online for me to go raid? Yeah, I think I could. Conceivably could end stream here and it would be fine and acceptable. Oh, though one thought while I was looking at streams that are available, I see that GDQ is currently continuing to run, as it, you know, obviously is. Looks like they're playing a Mario game now, which is cool. I'm not going to send you guys to GDQ, though. I'm sure many people are watching. I just wanted to mention that the Ocarina of Time quote-unquote beta task last night was truly mind-blowing from a programming perspective, and all engineer nerds in the chat, which I'm assuming is everybody present right now, I strongly encourage you to check out GDQ, or SGDQ 2022's Ocarina of Time beta showcase TAS. It is very cool to watch. It is an engineering marvel. I really hope that Nintendo doesn't get mad about it, is all I'm gonna say. Because I could legit spoil you on that. Oh no, what's happening? Thank you. Thank you for the 4 months. I really appreciate it. Oh, one other cool piece of information on the subject of memberships. I am in the works of getting one additional emote for the channel. I don't know when it will be available. Probably end of July, if all is going well. But I have paid my commission for getting an additional emote. I hope you guys like it. I hope it gets wide use, etc., etc. No further hints. But I will slowly make this membership more worth having. And if not, you can always just pay the 80 channel points and get a membership emote for 24 hours. Bad optics has not stopped Nintendo before, I know. That's why I'm very concerned that they're going to look at this and be like, wow, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen. They can't be allowed to ever do that again because we didn't make it. So, we'll see. It's a very good bit. One of the coolest things I've ever seen at a GDQ, or really a speedrun in general. So, I encourage you to check it out. Yeah, I'm gonna merge this API feature, and I'll get started on the next feature off of stream, I think, and we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'm going to stream tomorrow. I'm definitely not going to do pizza, I don't think. It was an idea I was kicking around, doing like some kind of barbecue-themed pizza, because it's like the 4th. I'm really fucking tired, though. I might do a game stream if I feel like streaming at tomorrow's 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. block. We'll see. Follow me on Twitter, etc., etc. You'll know in advance if I plan to stream. Am I in any cool programmer, Unity, VTuber Discords I should know about? Nope. I'm not. The only other programming type VTuber I know of who has a Discord has gone on like an indefinite hiatus. I don't know what's happening. Utah! Ooh, thank you. Thank you for the 3 months. I appreciate it. We will get more emotes than the share pizza emote soon enough. But yeah, there's Cyan Yan, who is the only other programmer type VTuber I know of that has like a server community, and then there's Tiberius, who has a server that I'm not in, just because I'm not, like, super plugged in. Thai might be a good place to go. I don't know what goes on in the Thai server. Scion is, like, on indefinite hiatus, so she's not terribly active. And then I'm in a bunch of tool servers, and, like, the VTube studio server is where I do most of my dev discussion these days. So not really. I don't have a satisfactory answer. What it sounds like. No one in there talks about programming except me. That's fair, you're the professor after all. Okay. So, I've committed my code, I saved my changes. Let's look at this again. VTube Studio server is nice, but it's very specialized. It's for talking about stuff in the context of VTube Studio, which for me is all I do these days, but it's not for everyone. Okay, so let's do a raid. I'm gonna go ahead and send you guys to whom? Raid Sigrid and Bird. Looks like they're doing some VR chat sword fighting, which is exciting. So go have fun over there. They're a cool streamer duo. Sigrid's looking to branch into programming as well, so go cheer her on for whatever she tries to do. Cool mad scientist vibes, etc., etc. They're gonna hit each other with swords, it looks like. Alright, bonus era, good night. Grazie mille for everybody who stuck around. I will try and get the next version of this plugin out the door by, I'm gonna say, next weekend is my goal. And then I'll probably have to make a video shortly after that. I'm shooting myself in the foot, I'm sure. Middle of July at the absolute latest. If you're interested in getting a beta of the API, you want to try and make a plugin for this plugin, reach out to me on Twitter or Discord, and I will happily send you a beta build before everything is fully squared away. And that's pretty much that. Go cheer these kids on. Have a good one. Bonus Sarah, and good night.